This is a special presentation of Fort Wayne Sports Station, ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM. It's the High School Coaches Show. Here's your host, Justin Kinney.
Welcome in, everyone. It's Thursday night. It's High School Coaches Show night. I'm Justin Kinney here with DC Hendricks producing. Here till 7 o'clock talking area high school basketball. Plenty to get to. We got some girls sectional basketball kicking off next week. We'll break that all down. The draw, of course, was last Sunday. In the thick of conference races on the boys' side, we'll break all that down. And a lot to go over the next 55 or so minutes. Of course, as he does each and every week, DC Hendricks is here. DC, how are you, sir?
What up? I'm doing all right.
What up? And you and Dan carried our first guest here in just a couple minutes. Carried the post-game show on Friday night.
That's right. He came out and joined me after, I forget what game he did. Girls game. Don't even remember what it was. I'm sure he'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he'll give me all the details. I'm sure it's two random schools.
But he came out and joined me at the Pizza Hut.
That's nice.
It was awesome. I really appreciate it. The Northcrest Pizza Hut came out and joined me and talked some high school hoops. He's the man. He's the go-to. He
is the go-to when it comes to high school hoops in the area. Dan Vance will join us here in just a second. We'll also talk to Athletic Director Torrey Curry of Southside High School.
Let's go.
Hendricks' alma mater at about 6:15. Southside hosting one of the two Area 4A sectionals in the area, Southside and East Noble, the hosts, and he'll help us break down the bracket over at South, the schedule, and more at about 6:15. And then we'll transition to the boys' side of things. John Bodey of Central Noble will join us at 6:30. His team 13-3 entering the weekend, has a big game coming up on the road tomorrow night at Cherubusco. We'll talk to Coach Bodey about that. And then hopefully, DC, eighth time's a charm.
Oh, no. Come on.
If his team would stop winning, we would stop trying. But Jeremy Rauch is scheduled to join us at 6:45.
Quick question. Has he been on yet?
I don't think he's ever been on the show. At least since he took the Snider job. Really, I'm serious. I don't think he's been on. So, but they win by buzzer beater. They beat Homestead a couple weeks back. Right. They win again on a buzzer beater earlier this week. So they keep winning in dramatic fashion. So I guess we'll keep trying him. But we'll see if Jeremy Rauch will join us at 6:45 or so. So stay tuned here. The next hour coming up is 7:15. We'll have the pregame show for the Mastodons. Who they playing? North Dakota State? North Dakota. 7:15 the pregame, 7:30 the tip out at the Coliseum. Plenty of time still to get out there. Women's game going on as we speak out at the Coliseum. And then tomorrow night, girls-boys doubleheader, Snider and Carroll out at the Carroll Fieldhouse. Pregame will start about 5:55. Girls game will start at 6 o'clock as it is the final girls-boys doubleheaders of the season in the SAC because we have girls postseason basketball starting next week. The guy that can break it all down for us is on the line with us right now from outside the huddle.net. He is Dan Vance. Dan, what's going on?
Not much, guys. I'm just dialed in, ready to talk about some sectional basketball or that Garrett West Noble girls game I was at last Friday.
Is that what it was? Garrett West Noble was the game. That how was hanging out with DC Hendricks on a Friday night?
It was great.
And not doing anything illegal.
Good.
I don't think.
DC's always a good time. I know we banter back and forth, but DC's about the most chill guy I know in the world, so it's always good to get out and see DC.
DC is the most chill guy in the world. Did you hear that, DC? I mean, I think so. He rolls with the punches. He's pretty laid back. So, Dan, let's talk Sunday. Let's talk the draw. And everybody's always on the cusp, on the edge of their seat, ready to be outraged because two of the best teams in the area are playing at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So usually when we talk seedings, but you tell me, how did the draw lay out in the area?
I like the draw with one possible exception, but obviously the one that everyone pays attention to is in 4A. Are we going to get Homestead and Southside on the same side of the bracket? Luckily, they're on opposite ends. They wouldn't meet until a possible final, so that's nice. In 3A, you have a Norwell Lures Tuesday matchup, which I don't necessarily like, but I think that sectional is decent enough and deep enough out at Mississinawa that there's teams from the other side, too, that could compete for a final. So I don't hate it, but, of course, I also don't want to see two of the best teams play on a Tuesday.
What, scheduling-wise, have you already kind of broken down where you're going to be next week?
I really haven't yet. I think we have some interesting matchups all around the area. It's always a tough one to schedule, to figure out where you're going to go and maximize seeing some of these good matchups. Obviously, Norwell and Lures is the biggest game on a Tuesday of anybody out at Mississinawa, so that one should be a good contest of two of the top 10 teams in the area.
Dan, let's look at each of these sectionals individually real quick, and we'll start in Class 4A, and we'll start with the one at East Noble. And you look at it and say, Northrop, they got blown out once against Carroll, and they beat Carroll once, if I remember right, in the tournament. Northrop needed overtime to beat East Noble, who's sitting there at a potential matchup between Northrop and East Noble down the line. But Carroll gets the bye. It's a Friday. What to make of this East Noble sectional? Or I think maybe, is it a two-team race? Can you throw East Noble in there?
I think you throw East Noble in there because they've been tricky. I mean, this is a team that's beaten teams they shouldn't have beaten this year, if we're being brutally honest. And they're a team that has thrown some wrenches into the Northeast 8 race that was a 14 tie until just a couple of weeks ago. So East Noble, I think they're going to end up finishing fourth in the Northeast 8 this year. They're playing very good basketball, a little underrated with how well they can play defensively at times. So I think they could throw a wrench in it, but I think you're looking at Carroll Northrop being the go-to game. And, like you said, they've split. Carroll is a tough one to read because they haven't been fully available roster-wise. You look at when they lost to Northrop in the tournament, you had an injured Emily Parrott playing, but injured, missed a few games after that. They have not been with Olivia Hefner in a month now. She missed the holiday tournament. No timetable, to my knowledge, of a return for her. So you're missing some people, and you've had some injuries, but at the same time, other girls have stepped up. They're going 9 deep in their scoring almost every night. You have a different leading scorer almost every night for Carroll. So they have to be the favorite right now just because of the diversity in what they can do offensively.
Dan, the other 4A sectional will be held at Southside. We'll talk to Torrey Curry about that here in a little bit. Can we make a case for anybody other than Homestead? You mentioned Huntington North, but realistically, can anybody beat the Spartans?
If anybody's going to do it, it's Southside. Those two games, we have to remember that they've been close. I believe they were 9 and 7 point wins for Homestead when they played Southside this year. So Southside's been able to keep it close. The thing they have not been able to do is limit Homestead second, third, fourth chance opportunities on individual possessions. Sydney Graber has played extremely well both times. Ayanna Patterson has rebounded extremely well both times. Amber Austin has had good games against Southside. So if Southside has a chance, they have to be able to lock down inside. Lamaya Woodson and Elia Chapman are going to have to play the best games of the season. The guard play is going to be strong for Southside. The guard play is going to be strong for Homestead. So Southside has to win inside too. I think whoever wins that has the best shot. I wouldn't discount Huntington North, though. I know Southside beat them already earlier this week. They're going to match up with them again next week. But when you play a team a week before you're going to play them again in sectionals, I don't really know what we saw. Did we get the best Huntington North? Did we get the best Southside in that game? I think this week's game was kind of a throwaway, so you got to ignore that going into next week.
When you look at Southside and the schedule they've played over the last month, an absolute grind, and 7 of their 9 losses have come since that Homestead game and the SAC Holiday Tournament Championship game. Has that schedule helped them prepare for next week, or do you think they're just getting wore down playing such tough physical teams over the last 3-4 weeks?
That's tough, and I think that's what we're going to figure out next week. They're a team that you look at them sitting at, I believe, 9 losses, but they're not losing in this area. They're not losing to teams in this area unless they're called Homestead. So they're playing very, very tough teams. We're going to find out very quickly if the grind has helped or hurt, but that's kind of the risk you have to take. And when Juanita Goodwill put this schedule together, it was to prepare them for the postseason, because the reality is we look at maybe Homestead being a team that can compete on a state level. The north part of 4A is a grind, and the winner of this sectional is going to go to a regional that's going to have, looking at Northwestern, who came up from 3A. You're going to have, probably Hamilton Southeastern, maybe Carmel, that sectional that they're in that's tough. You're looking at a semi-state where maybe it's a Crown Point. The north half of the state in 4A is tough, so you have to be able to handle the grind, and Homestead and Southside have both scheduled to prepare them. So we'll find out if they've worn themselves out or not.
Dan, looking at Class 3A, the Lakeland sectional, we have Central Noble in there. Lakeland with 13 wins as well, but Northwood, at least on paper, seems to be the class of this sectional.
Yeah, Northwood's a monster, and I think that Central Noble and Lakeland can get some good wins here. Central Noble is not down as bad as we thought they would be after the graduation of Sydney Freeman and Malia Leatherman. They've played great all year. Bridget Gray has stepped up the way we expected her to. Maddie Weiss, Megan Keeble, a couple of freshmen have played very well. So I think Central Noble can get some good wins here, but yeah, Northwood's kind of a power right now, and it's going to take a big effort to get by them.
Can anybody give Angola a challenge in the Concordia sectional?
I think that's a really nice sectional. It's fun. You saw Concordia beat Woodland earlier this week in overtime. A little bit of a surprise there, knowing that Woodland is a team that's hard to beat. They were down bad in the ACAC tournament final against Adams Central, came back, had a huge fourth quarter, down 14 going into the fourth. They're tough to put away. But Angola's just playing on a different level right now, and they've kind of set themselves up for this year. This senior class has kind of been a really important piece to this program. Kayla Finstermaker is coming off of a career best game, I believe, against Belmont last night, and had 17 points. Allie Lawrence is playing great basketball after missing the year last year. And anytime you have Hannah Knoll on the court, Angola's going to be hard to beat. You're going to be, as long as you're within 2 or 3 3-pointers, Hannah Knoll's capable of knocking them down on consecutive trips. I think it's going to be very hard to beat Angola. To me, I think Angola is one of my favorites. If you said who has the best chance to get to Baker's Life in the area, Angola is the team for me.
Dan, the third 3A sectional in the area is probably the most intriguing sectional out of any in Northeast Indiana. This will be played at Mississinewa. Every single team in the field has at least 13 wins. Norwell 17-4, Lures 14-7. Oak Hill, who's been a perennial power with 15 wins in kind of a rebuilding year for Todd Law. This is stacked. A Mississinewa team that gets a bye into Friday that's playing at home with 13 wins. Belmont with 14 dubs. What do you make of this sectional in which you can make a case ideally for every single team at some point?
Yeah, you can. I mean, Oak Hill is an interesting one. Like you said, it's a rebuild, but they're so strong. You consider Belmont not necessarily in a rebuild, but they lose the best player in the history of their program, and they played so strong. If I had to go with a favorite, I'm sticking with Norwell because this is a team that was really upset a year ago. They didn't capture any titles, which was very strange for a Norwell program. No conference title, no sectional title. And so they've really put an emphasis on being there and getting themselves in a position to win titles this year. They're at least going to share the Northeast 8. That'll wrap up on Friday, one way or another. So I think that they got to be the favorite, but there's a lot of tough teams along the way. Bishop Luers is no easy task in round one. If you ended up with a Norwell-Belmont final in that rivalry, you throw everything out the window. And then, like you said, Mississinewa playing at home. Home court advantage is always great in sectionals, and Oak Hill's a power for a reason. So this is a loaded one.
Dan, going to 2A and at Bluffton, Adams Central has not won a sectional championship since 2001. They enter this sectional 15-7 as of right now. They lost the season opening game to an East Side team that looks like the biggest threat to them in this field. What to make of what we'll see next week at Bluffton?
This may be the next best sectional. And even last year, it was a really strong sectional. It may not be teams as good as what we just talked about in 3A, but they're all pretty evenly matched. Bluffton is probably the one with the record that is more deficient than the others, but this is a Bluffton team that's won this sectional 2 years in a row. They're playing at home. When they play good basketball, they're tough. It's a tough one. I think Adams Central is the favorite because McKenna Deach is hitting so well from outside right now, and Carly Holly has been a monster inside for them. I think they're the favorite, but when you look at it, I wouldn't count out Bluffton. Eastside has played great basketball, with the new head coach this year and a team that we thought maybe needed to rebuild with a young team. They've played better than we thought. And South Adams is playing good basketball right now, and I wouldn't necessarily count them out of it either.
Dan, the Class 1A sectional at Blackhawk Christian, the Braves are the host. They enter the sectional as of right now with a 14-7 record. Any reason to think that Blackhawk will not win this?
The little reason would be I think that Lakewood Park has the ability to pull some upsets off. They have a roster that is capable of getting hot. But I'll tell you what, Blackhawks played great this year. This has been the best regular season in program history, and Haley Klein has really separated herself in the last few weeks, especially as being a premier scorer when you talk about the lower classes, 1A and 2A in the area. She's capable of giving you 18 to 25 a night, can score in a lot of different ways as a slasher, as a perimeter threat, as a mid-range threat. So I think this is definitely one that Blackhawk has in their hands, and it's theirs to lose.
He is Dan Vance. Dan, let's touch on the boys' side really quick. And we're going to effort to have Jeremy Rauch on the show. We're going to see what happens in about a half hour's time. But we've seen what the Panthers have been able to do in recent weeks, so we're going to try to get Coach Rauch on. Starting with that win on the road at Homestead. Since then, they've beaten Concordia. They knocked off Cherubusco in dramatic fashion earlier this week. That trap game last night against DeKalb, they took care of business by 17. So what do we make of the Snider Panthers right now, 13-3, with a pivotal game coming up at Carroll tomorrow night?
Well, I'll tell you what, as soon as I'm off the phone with you, I'm going to text Jeremy Rauch and tell him to answer his phone.
I told him I was going to text him today at 6:30, so hopefully with our powers combined.
He's got some good stuff going there, and I think that they've corrected some of the problems that hurt him the first time against Carroll. They were letting guys, we saw that in the loss to Wayne, too. Defense letting opposing players leak out and get out on the break has been really tough for them. So that's something they've corrected. Right now, they've kind of struggled with interior players. Atlanta George did good against them Tuesday. Connor Penrod from DeKalb had a good night last night. That's not a problem to have when you look at Carroll. Carroll doesn't hurt you real bad inside, down low. So if Snider can get out and make this a running game, I think they're in great shape. And, when you talk about finishing out the conference season and having a chance to contend as an SAC champion, that's what they got to do, get out on the break. And the tough part about playing Snider right now, and you mentioned it earlier, with these buzzer beaters, and Tuesday's game, not only a buzzer beater, they were down by 10 points with 45 seconds left to play in that game. Snider's never out of a basketball game at this point.
Yeah, and heroics to win that one. And who was it that hit the shot? Never even heard of him.
Jade Moore. Jade Moore has been playing varsity basketball for all of about 3 weeks.
Hey, and he should just walk away now because he's not going to do that at this point. But, Dan, we got some clarity in the Northeast 8 last weekend when Norwell took care of business against New Haven. We have Norwell and Columbia City both now with 4-0 records. Of course, the excitement of that conference will come down to a dramatic game next Thursday night, just like we all envision with girls basketball going on. So they're stuck on a Thursday night at Norwell, Columbia City and Norwell. But can the Eagles challenge the Knights at this point? I mean, Columbia City 7-8 overall, but have been perfect in the NE8. Do they have anything for the Knights in this matchup next Thursday?
That would come down to kind of the other guys and what they can do. And right now, Norwell's got more other guys providing. Mitchell Wilson from Columbia City has been fantastic. He and Will Geiger in a way are going to offset each other. But Norwell's had these other guys. Connor Torsen has played great as a point guard this year. If you look at the kid, he's long, he's lanky, he's not a natural point guard, but he reads the floor so well. Luke McBride, the freshman, has stepped up huge. He had 17 in their win over Bishop Luers, which is a huge win for them on Tuesday. This is a Norwell team that's unbeaten against, I think they're 6-0 against SAC schools now. So they got other guys stepping up. I don't even know if we get to next Thursday being a big game. This weekend is huge. Norwell at East Noble. East Noble could play Spoiler. They've been playing good basketball lately. And Columbia City plays New Haven this weekend. So there's a lot of games that could still decide things. And possible that the Columbia City's still in it. New Haven's not out of it yet either. East Noble probably not even really out of this race. So we got some clarity, and Norwell looks to be the class of the field, but we're far from over.
Dan, before we let you go, who is the best team in the Northeast Corner Conference? Because as soon as I feel like I have it figured out, somebody beats somebody else, and it all goes up in smoke.
I think it's Central Noble right now. I mean, getting through that gauntlet of a tournament and winning the NACC tournament, you have to hand it to them right now. Prairie Heights is going to make a case, Westview's going to make a case, and Busco's going to make a case tomorrow. So it's an interesting conference. We knew it was going to be huge this year, and every game was going to be important. But I got to go with Central Noble right now because they are winning the games that matter so far. So let's see if they can continue that tomorrow night. I look forward to it. I'll be in Busco tomorrow night for that one. It's going to be a great slugfest. Jackson Paul versus Conner Esigian may be the best one-on-one player matchup that we're going to see in this area all year. And
good friends, too, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
Those two
absolutely.
Guys. Dan, before we let you go, what's new at OutsideHuddle.net?
Well, today we caught up with Casey Kolkman, the new Heritage head coach, talk a little bit about his decision-making and taking that Heritage job and taking over the program that school he went to. Tomorrow we'll have preview of our game of the week, which will be Carroll and Snider, obviously, big SAC implications. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to break down the 9 area sectionals a little bit like we did here, a little bit more. Go through with 3 each of those days, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 3 on Monday. And then, full sectional coverage next week.
All right, sir. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That was Dan Vance of Outside the Huddle.net joining us here on the ESPN High School Coaches Show, breaking down sectional basketball coming up on the girls' side beginning next Tuesday. So plenty of postseason basketball going on throughout the area next week. We're going to break more of that down, particularly the 4A sectional at Southside after the break. Athletic Director Torrey Curry of Southside will join us. This is a Thursday night edition of the High School Coaches Show, ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM.
Listen up, high school sports fans. This cheers for you.
You're number one! You're number one!
Why all the love? Why do we think you're number one?
Because as high school athletes, we know there is no us without you.
We know that when you buy a ticket to see an IHSAA game or meet, you're helping pay for new uniforms, safer equipment, or even a bus ride to the game.
But we also know what you're really saying is, I believe in you. I believe you could be somebody.
When you think about all of the opportunities your attendance at an IHSAA athletic event creates,
and the fact that you paid for your ticket,
well, fantastic doesn't begin to describe how we feel about you.
High school sports.
You pay,
we play.
Everybody wins.
This message brought to you by the IHSAA, encouraging you to go to a high school game this week and help build a future that benefits us all.
Eating, working, living pain-free. These are a few of the things many of us take for granted. Yet for many United States military veterans, finding and affording oral health care is a challenge. Dental Lifeline Network is looking for dentists who can change this. Will you volunteer to help people like Richard, a U.S. naval veteran who suffered severe PTSD after his service? He was left homeless for a period of time, and his oral and overall health are suffering. Because of congressional limitations, the VA can't provide the dental help he needs. Through our Will You See One Vet program, we focus on helping U.S. military veterans like Richard. Now we are seeking more general dentists and specialists to donate treatment to at least one veteran with special needs. When you volunteer with DLN's program to see one vet, we handle the details so you can focus on the care. If you are a dentist or know a dentist, please share this message and help us make a difference in the life of a veteran in need. Visit willyouseeonevet.org to learn more. That's willyouseeonevet.org.
Driving means
freedom,
exploration,
fun,
pride,
flexibility,
travel,
protection,
friendship,
independence. Distracted driving means
danger,
recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police,
devastation,
injury,
death.
Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Your sports for Fort Wayne, Northern Indiana, Indy, and more. The Pat McAfee Show, weekdays starting at 2, right up to the sports rush at 4. Listen now on the new ESPN Fort Wayne app and on ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM. You're listening to the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back. ESPN High School Coaches Show. I'm Justin Kenny. DC Hendricks, who's chuckling at me for the rejoin. They never feel natural, DC. I never know what to say coming out of the break. Welcome back. Can I say that? Is that fine? Would you laugh at me if I did that? Welcome back. See, I'm not born for radio. I came from print journalism, folks. Just lucky I don't say any bad stuff on here. You know, DC. Speaking of bad stuff, DC did plenty of it at Southside High School, I'm sure.
See why you got to bring that up.
It's a great segue.
Old news. It's old news.
Great segue. I'm sure your antics are still talked about in the halls of Southside.
I'm sure they're not.
We're going to talk some Southside. We won't talk some DC Hendricks. We are going to talk some Southside athletics right now with South Athletic Director Torrey Curry, who joins us right now. Torrey, how are you, my man?
I'm good. How you doing, Justin?
We're doing all right. You reached out yesterday. You said, hey, would there be a spot for me on the coaches show to talk sectional basketball? And I said, hey, the more people we can have on, meaning the less I have to talk, it's better for all involved.
Well, you know, you and I are very similar. Same haircut, the dad bod, you know.
That's right.
We're almost, yeah.
But you're in a position of authority. I just take orders. You can give them.
Oh, I wouldn't call it authority. I don't have too much at home. That's a joint effort. That's a joint effort at home.
Oh, I haven't made any decisions important in the family, and I did get married 12 years ago, so it's probably been about 12 years.
Hey, well, no.
But Torrey, we wanted to talk basketball for next week, and I know you're hosting one of the 4A sectionals, and a lot of people are anticipating, a potential Homestead and Southside matchup in the final. But take us through the field, what you're expecting, what you hope people will come out and enjoy next week.
Well, I've been able to watch everybody but New Haven live. And every team, whether we've hosted or faced them on the road, we've had good crowds for girls basketball games. And so for us, hosting an IHSAA event, we just want to encourage people to come out. We start Tuesday night, 6 p.m. New Haven will play Homestead. Gates will open right at 5 p.m. and be able to get your tickets. And in that game, that's a tall order for New Haven, but in tournament time, anything is possible, and we try to remind our own kids of that you don't look ahead. Right now our girls are talking Bishop Dwenger because that's Friday night. That's the next game's the important game. But then on Tuesday night after New Haven Homestead wraps up around 7:30, we will play Huntington North for the second time in 7 days, and this past Tuesday night we hosted them, and it was a grinded out game. Credit Huntington North for sticking to their game plan and really resisting playing our style of basketball, but eventually, we were able to turn it into a game that we would prefer to play instead of slow and steady. We like to be a little quick. Winners will then move to Friday night. The winner of New Haven Homestead, they'll face Columbia City. Another great community. We're looking forward to having in Don Reichert Gymnasium, the South Side. And then either the Lady Archers or Huntington North will face Wayne on Friday night. I'm biased. I'm hoping it's another night of watching Lady Archer basketball. And then we'll wrap it up on Saturday night at 7:30 with the championship game. I know what the media and the press, what the prediction is, and I would agree with that. But for us hosting, we're just looking to pack the gym for the young ladies. I think women's basketball at the high school level has come such a long way that people still don't come out to see it like they should, and it's great basketball.
Yeah, in particular, South and Homestead, you guys have already played them twice this year, played them tough both times, lost by single digits, and this has become a rivalry over the last several years between Coach Goodwell and Coach Parker with two of the premier teams in Northern Indiana. So I know nobody's looking ahead, but it would be another huge matchup between the two on Saturday if we get that far.
Yes, it would. You have two programs that consistently are playing at a high level, winning a lot of games, and I heard you talking with Dan Vance about, we've got 9 losses, and you look at our 9 losses. I don't know if anyone we've lost to, other than maybe one school, has not been ranked in the top 10 of their class at some point. And that's something that when Coach Goodwell and I sit down to build the schedule and when we have openings, the approach is let's get our young ladies ready, have them tested, and let them go against some teams that we're going to have to really work hard and play really well to have the opportunity to win. But then that mindset of a loss is not a bad loss unless you don't learn from it. And with high school athletes, sometimes that's the challenge, is helping them understand that we're still learning, we're still getting better, and it's okay to have losses.
Torrey Curry, Athletic Director of Southside High School, joining us here on the High School Coaches Show. Torrey, wanted to ask you this question because we always hear it around this time of year is why is this school hosting this sectional? Why didn't this school try to get this regional and stuff like that? But take us through the process, at least through the sectional, on teams or schools trying to get a bid, putting their names in to host a postseason tournament.
So every sport, the athletic directors will communicate with one another and say who's willing to host. And then we're the host this year, and I was in charge of letting the IHSAA know who was willing to host. And so I believe everyone in our sectional said, hey, I will host. And so then it goes to IHSAA, and they ultimately make that decision to determine the host. And so 2 years ago was at Southside in the 2018 season, last year back at Homestead. And then, honestly, Homestead's AD and I had been talking. We thought it would be back at Homestead, and then when they released the site host, it ended up being us, and we're super proud of that. Next week's going to be a crazy week for us because we're also selected to be the girls swim and dive sectional host, which is also next week. So
nice.
I'm looking at a Tuesday night basketball, Thursday night swimming, Friday night basketball, Saturday morning swimming, and Friday night basketball. But you know what? It gives people on our campus, and as DC knows, Southside's a beautiful place. The natatorium may not be ours to claim because it's FWCS's, but the relationship we have with them and to be able to work with them, we're excited to be able to host and be a part of something big that gets people onto our campus and into our facilities.
Torrey, kind of a follow-up question with a couple of the other schools that signed up to potentially host this thing. Does the IHSAA look at other events that these schools have put in? For example, Huntington North, I know, has been trying to get either a regional or a semi-state for basketball. North Arena, I know Columbia City, a lot of years hosts a 3A regional on the boys' side. Does the IHSAA take those things into consideration?
I think so. And then you look at venue size and capacity, and it would be difficult for us to host a regional or a semi-state. And we don't have that size of a gym or without the upper deck. So sectional is perfect for us. We'll be able to fit everybody in. It's going to make for a loud gym as long as people show up, because our gym can be really loud, and it makes it a great venue for a sectional atmosphere to take place. And then as it goes up, looking at the IHSAA information as far as regional and semi-state, the potential hosts are always schools with much larger gyms, which makes sense. And so they look at what your capacity is, what your location is to all the different sectionals, regionals, as things progress in the state tournament. And that's been interesting to learn all that in the last year and a half since, being able to be hired as athletic director at Southside is how do all those things work? How does all this fall into place? How are schools selected? And it's been a huge learning curve, but I love what we're doing.
And a final question for you. You come from Northside. You're a Northside guy. I was a Northside guy. Now you go over to South. You're a Southside guy, and DC's a Southside guy. Did you have to totally destroy all red-colored clothing, or can you at least wear it around the house, just not in public?
Not even around the house.
Wow.
I will tell you this. My thumbtacks that you get that are multicolor, I throw away the red ones.
Wow, that's serious, huh?
There are some things that are still in my home that because I cherish those 2 seasons I was able to coach at Northside, and anywhere that I've coached. I still have some remnants of anywhere I've coached, but I see my kids. I just picked up my son. We're headed to his wrestling practice, and 2 nights ago he's wearing a Legends hoodie. Headed to bed, and that's fine, because then, ultimately, when we talk about where our kid's going to end up, if you ask my 3 youngest, who are 9, 8, and 3, it's all Southside. my daughters do Southside cheers in their bedroom, making signs and, say go Southside and doing the cheers. And so the community there, and I'm sure it's the same at every school, they've embraced my wife and I and our kids. And there's really no other place I'd rather be to be able to do this job. It was my career goal, and it happened a lot sooner than what my family had planned. But we're rolling with it, and I will say this for DC: I don't hear his name mentioned in a negative light at Southside. I don't see his name on any walls. I'm not going to go digging for any files, though. I'll protect him.
I think that DC Hendricks file is probably pretty big if you go through it. But he doesn't, DC, he says he doesn't hear your name in the halls or anything. So either the statute of limitations have been reached or you weren't as bad as we like to think you were. So
that might be true.
All right, Torrey. Hey, thanks for coming on. Good luck on running the sectional next week. I'm sure it'll be a top-rate event, and we'll catch up to you down the road.
I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
That was Torrey Curry, Athletic Director of Southside High School, coming on to talk about the sectional coming up next week, but also giving some insight on why certain venues are chosen over this venue and that venue and who's trying to get an event. We talk so much in the area around here about, man, wouldn't it be great for a Carroll Fieldhouse to host something or this place or that place? Well, these schools need to want to do it. They need to actually put their names in. They're not assigned by the IHSAA to host something. So it's totally up to the schools and the administration if they're going to put in a bid to host postseason events. And sometimes you get a lot of feedback, like the Southside Sectional, where all 6 teams tried to get the sectional on the girls' side. Other times you don't get a lot of feedback from schools. So kind of a look behind the curtain in terms of really getting sectional sites assigned to various schools in the area, at least on the basketball side. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. Coach John Bodey, Central Noble, will join us. We'll talk some NECC boys basketball when we come back. Jeremy Rauch, maybe, potentially, hopefully. We'll see later in the show. You're listening to the High School Coaches Show, ESPN Radio 1380, 100.9 FM.
Place your sports bets at BetRivers.com. You'll find a massive number of basketball betting options, bet point spreads, money lines, and game totals directly from your mobile device. Use one of our easy deposit methods to get in on the action. And when you win, we pay fast. We pride ourselves on our quick and easy payouts. Sign up now. We'll match your first deposit up to $250. More bets, more action, more fun. Must be 21 or over to play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Playable only in Indiana.
At Children's Cancer Research Fund, we believe a world without childhood cancer is possible, but it takes all of us. And whether it's developing a groundbreaking treatment or helping a girl realize her dream, everyone has a role in a child's cancer journey. Just ask researcher Brandon Moriarty about his latest breakthrough, a genetic biomarker treatment.
Children's Cancer Research Fund is a great organization. They provide funding to really dig deep into the research and make more progress. We were able to start a clinical trial that's led by Emily Greengard.
The hope is that these types of therapies are going to be more effective and a lot better tolerated, a lot more safe for the patients.
People ask me how I keep a smile on my face. It's easy when you have so many great people that take care of you and support you.
To find out how you can be a part of a child's cancer journey and a part of the cure, visit childrenscancer.org, a public service message from Children's Cancer Research Fund.
America's veterans are more than a source of pride. They're a source of strength. When our veterans thrive, our communities thrive. With your support, our veterans can get career and education opportunities as well as benefits they've earned.
Hi, I'm Congressman Bob Latta. Join me in thanking our nation's veterans. They've given so much. Find out how you can support veterans in our community.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Now back to the High School Coaches Show with Justin Kinney on Fort Wayne Sports Station, ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, everyone, to the High School Coaches Show. Here on a Thursday night, here till 7 o'clock, talking area high school basketball. Coming up tomorrow night, doubleheader time, final SAC doubleheader of the season. And we'll be out at the Carroll Fieldhouse, Snider Panthers, Carroll Chargers, girls at 6, boys to follow in what is a very pivotal game on the boys' side. Snider and Carroll, both 4-1 in the conference, and looking to go to 5-1 tomorrow night. And hopefully, we'll be joined by Jeremy Rauch. Texted him just a bit ago, told him 12 minutes. We're calling him in 12 minutes, DC. So, DC still highly doubtful we'll get Jeremy Rauch on the phone. But is Brett Rump doing the games tomorrow, DC? Is Jay Prince doing the girls? Do we have any idea?
I think Jay Prince is doing the girls and Brett's doing the boys.
See? Okay, there you go. So Jay Prince will be on at 6 o'clock. Brett Rump to follow. Just tune in. Who cares who's doing the game? You'll be able to follow all the action. Final girls-boys doubleheader of the season. Of course, girls get started with sectionals starting next week. But there's still plenty to decide on the boys' side, particularly in the Northeast Corner Conference. Like I said earlier, we were talking to Dan Vance, just when you feel like you have this conference figured out, somebody beats somebody. But right now, it's a Westview, a Central Noble, a Prairie Heights. You could throw Busco in there with the return of Landon Jordan. A lot of exciting basketball going on in the NECC. And the head coach of the Central Noble Cougars, one of the teams in the thick of the race, is on the line with us right now. Coach John Bodey. Coach, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Justin?
Doing pretty good, sir. And before we get to you guys' big matchup tomorrow night on the road, you're playing some pretty good basketball since the turn of the calendar. Just that single loss at your county rival East Noble last week, but playing some good basketball overall. How do you feel your team is looking here over the last several weeks?
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to figure things out on offense. We want to play fast, but if it's not there, we've done a pretty good job of trying to play inside out, and our shot selection has been pretty good this year. And then I think, we got beat by Wawasee around Christmas time, and Wawasee has a couple of really good players, and I just thought we were very bad defensively that night. And we had a nice long talk with the kids the next day and before the Bremen game, and I feel like we've gotten better defensively since the Wawasee game, and we're still got a ways to go, but I feel like we're making progress every day on the defensive end.
You look at the makeup of this roster, and Connor Esesian feels like a household name, yet he's still an underclassman. Sawyer Yoder is playing really good for you. He's not even a senior. So you're putting a really good season together with a lot of guys that haven't played a lot of varsity basketball.
Yeah, we start 3 sophomores, a junior, and then our point guard is a senior that didn't play last year. And so really, his last time playing was as a sophomore on the JV team. Our only really varsity experience is Connor as a freshman and Sawyer as a half a year as a freshman and his sophomore year. So, yeah, we're starting to figure things out, starting to figure out both ends of the court matter. And I like where we're at with this young team.
When you look at what you guys were able to accomplish the last several years, this team has been able to rattle off double-digit win seasons on the regular the last several years. You win 15 a year ago, bounced early in the postseason, but do you feel comparatively last year to this year, this team is capable of more, or is it still too early to tell?
I feel like we're capable of more this year. Last year we were really perimeter oriented. It was just a jump shooting team. We had 2 really good shooters in Connor and Ridley Zolman. But this year I feel like we have a little bit more diverse on offense, and I feel like we're getting better defensively. But as I say that, it's probably the toughest 2A sectional in the state. And I think we said that last year, but as you look at the 2A poll right now, I think Prairie Heights is 9. I may have the wrong order. Westview's 10, we're 11, and I think Busco's 14. So 4 of the teams in our sectional are top 15 in 2A.
And all the teams you're competing in the NECC as well. I mean, what do you make of this conference? Because it's a little out of the way to a lot of people in Metro Fort Wayne, but there's some really good basketball being played in the NECC and pretty top-heavy. You throw Angola in there that's played well at times, Fremont a time or two. It's really deep in terms of the talent and quality basketball in the NECC.
Yeah, we mentioned 4 teams, and one team we didn't mention was Angola. I think you just did, but I didn't mention them. And,
I think, if I may have the total numbers wrong, but I think they won their 3A sectional 2 of the last 3 years. So it's a pretty tough conference. And I remember my first year at Central Noble, we finished 6th in the conference, and I think the top 6 teams all won sectionals that year. And it's year in, year out. It's, especially the last 4 years here, it's been a pretty tough, balanced conference. We go to East Side last Friday, and they had 7 threes in the first half on us, and it's a 3-point game at halftime, and we had a pretty good second half to take care of it. But they're darn good. There's just a bunch of solid teams, good coaches in our conference.
Coach, before we talk Cherubusco tomorrow night, I wanted to ask you something. Some people will say, well, it's tough to compare Central. They don't play a lot of teams in Allen County. Do you guys want to play teams down here? Are you cool with playing the schedule you do because you feel like it prepares you for what you're going to see in 2A?
No, I think we do want to play some Allen County teams. I first got here, we dropped a couple teams, picked up Heritage, picked up DeKalb, and I think next year I'd like to pick up a couple Fort Wayne schools. I've talked to my AD about it, and like to look at some of the city schools, and just I think it'll make us better for a tournament run.
Yeah, particularly with the youth that you have, they're going to be around for a while, right? So
yeah, and I have some good middle school teams. We need to play that competition, and those athletes that we don't normally face, that we would face in a regional or semi-state.
Coach, you have a big one coming up on the road tomorrow. Cherubusco is one of those aforementioned teams that's in the thick of the conference race. They feel like a completely different team with Landon Jordan now back in the lineup for them. Jackson Paul is tremendous. I know Jackson and Connor play with Team Focus. They're really good friends. Could be a great one-on-one matchup for those two tomorrow. But what to expect in Turtletown tomorrow night?
I think it's going to be the Friday night in Indiana, and it's going to be a packed gym, a great environment. It's what Indiana high school basketball is supposed to be like, and 2 rival schools, and we played them 2 weeks ago, and it was the same thing at our place. It was a packed gym, 2 rival schools, and I expect a fun night. It's going to be an intense night. And I'm hoping my young sophomores and young team can compete and handle that environment against their juniors and seniors.
Coach, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you this, and I say this to everybody who'll possibly listen because I think the entire area would benefit from it, but we see so many of these one-day shootouts around throughout the state of Indiana. I know Marion does a good job with theirs. It's been around for several years. Would you be for something like that in Northeast Indiana where we had a day, it could be a Saturday, and we had 5 or 6 games, and we had some of the best teams in the area, whether they be SAC schools or NE8 or NECC or whoever, bring some teams in from outside the area, just have 5 or 6 games, one-day shootout, really showcase the area. We really don't have it in this area. All of our teams need to travel elsewhere to participate in something like that. Would you like to see something of that ilk here in Northeast Indiana?
Yeah, I think that it'd be neat, and it's something, again, something else to promote high school basketball. I really like, my daughters played down in Indy one year on I think it was the Basketball Day in Indiana deal, and got to do that. And we did something like that last year with Garrett, where we had every team in our program played from 6th grade on up, boys and girls. But yeah, I think anything like that promotes Indiana high school basketball, I'm interested in and would be willing to do.
Coach, I appreciate the time. Thanks a lot. Good luck tomorrow in a pivotal NECC showdown at Busco.
Thank you, Justin.
That was Coach John Bodey, Central Noble Cougars, joining us, and his team 13-3. And like you mentioned, that Class 2A sectional 33 or 35, I believe it is absolutely loaded with Central Noble, Prairie Heights, Westview, and Cherubusco at the top of that sectional. Also, the 4 teams atop the NECC currently battling it out for that conference championship. So some big games coming up in the NECC. And like Coach said, it's underappreciated basketball. So many people want to write off NECC hoops when they see the SAC night in and night out in the area. But there's some really good basketball being played. And hopefully, as we move forward, we'll see more of those teams able to play. Some of the teams down here, we've seen Cherubusco do it. We're going to talk to Coach Coach Jeremy Rauch here hopefully in a minute about their team's showdown with Cherubusco earlier this week. The Eagles are also taking on Northside later next month, so Wayne as well in February. So Cherubusco's kind of adding some Fort Wayne flavor into their schedule, and we'd like to see some of the NECC teams do it as well. Angola does a good job of mixing it in too as well. But we're going to take a break, come back. DC, cross your fingers. Jeremy Rauch after the break. Let's see if we can do it. You're listening to the ESPN High School Coaches Show, ESPN Radio 1380, 100.9 FM.
I think about quitting every day, and every day I buy more cigarettes. I want to quit, but I feel like I have to have them. I know that sounds bad, but I will quit someday.
Why wait? Make someday today. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW for professional help. That's 1-800-QUIT-NOW. It's effective, it's confidential, and it's free. 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Premature birth is the #1 killer of babies. Those who survive often face birth defects and complications that affect them for life. A healthy birth is the dream of every parent. But for hundreds of thousands of families with a baby born too soon, the reality is their baby's first home is the newborn intensive care unit. It's the hardest thing they will ever have to face. And it's even harder on the baby. This is a crisis that knows no boundaries. 15 million babies are born prematurely worldwide. Nearly 1 million will die before their first birthday. Do something today. Help the March of Dimes provide education and support to families and fund life-saving research to give every baby a fighting chance. Give them tomorrow at marchofdimes.org/tomorrow.
ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM is now on your Amazon Echo. Enable our skill today. Just ask Alexa to enable ESPN Fort Wayne skill. Once it's enabled, you can ask Alexa to open ESPN Fort Wayne, and it'll open up our live stream on Fort Wayne Sports Station. You're listening to the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, ESPN Radio 1380 and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back for the final time here on the High School Coaches Show. I'm Justin Kenny, DC Hendricks producing. Here for about 10 more minutes before we'll give way to ESPN National broadcast for about 15 minutes before Brett Rump will be live from the Coliseum for pregame of the PFW Mastodons and North Dakota. Pregame 7:15, tip-off at about 7:30 for the Mastodons. But, DC, we did it. It happened. We got a hold of Jeremy Rauch. We give him a lot of crap, but I know with getting out of school late, it's difficult. We're up against the time. That's why we don't have a lot of Fort Wayne Community Schools coaches on the football and basketball season, because they're coaching throughout our show. But, yes, Jeremy Rauch is on the line with us. Coach, how the heck are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing all right. Coming off 2 wins this week and just doing our best to try to figure out how we can get a third one.
Yeah, let's look back, and we don't have to look back very far because you had some heroics out of a kid that's been up for about, 15 minutes from the JV level. Hits a big shot for you. And then you got to turn around and what a lot of us thought maybe could have been a trap game at DeKalb, a solid DeKalb team, but you guys took care of business last night. But a busy week for you. You're 2-0. You got a big one coming up tomorrow, but take us through a couple really heroic games out of your guys. First at Homestead a couple weeks back, and then at Busco, coming back 10 down, less than a minute to go on Tuesday night to get a win.
I don't know that I've ever been a part of a game like that, but I really felt like they outplayed us for a good part of that game. But credit to the guys because they truly just kept fighting and kept working, and ultimately, we want to be a team that can still find a way to win even when we're not shooting well. And then of course we were down with down 10 with a minute to go. And so we weren't quite there, but, we just kind of strung some possessions together and with kind of minimal timeouts and, executed some things on the fly. And all of that has to do with kind of going through the lumps over the course of the last few years. We've got culture guys, we've got great kids, and they just stayed the course and they kind of self-navigated throughout that last minute and hit some shots. And then obviously it culminated to Jade's shot there to win it
Yeah, it was huge on the home floor. And, Coach, you get 2 wins in dramatic fashion, and John hitting that shot at Homestead a couple weeks back was crazy. But I have to feel like how you guys won those games. Look, it's good to get that conference win. Busco game, it just looks good to come back. It doesn't mean anything in terms of wins and losses. I mean, it means something, but, in terms of conference. But I have to feel, okay, you go to Homestead and find a way to win when Dylan Duff fouls out late in regulation.
Right.
And then you come back from 10 down on Tuesday to beat a good Cherubusco team. You're finding ways to win late in games against good opponents, and you have to say, man, that bodes well for March, you have to think.
Yeah, no question. And in terms of the different styles, and whether we're up and we need to close the game out, and you could probably count the first Homestead game as part of that too, and down 1 with 10 seconds to go and had to execute a set play, and again I'll go back to everybody wants that immediate satisfaction, and we've been through the grind with these guys. You know what I mean? We've got 3-4 year starters now, and it's not just by fact that you're older doesn't necessarily mean that you're better or that you're entitled to win. I mean, these guys are workers, and they're workers together, and they know that they play with an urgency that to win the game, and obviously we want to approach every game as our championship game. So even a game like Cherubusco, where we get outplayed for parts of it, we kind of stuck together and got the job done.
Coach, you get another big one tomorrow, not just in the SAC, but also, playing the Chargers, a team that could be a potential sectional opponent, but also was a team that beat you in the SAC Holiday Tournament Championship one day, the same day after you guys knocked off Homestead. Is that in the mind of any of your guys you talk about, or is there something where you're zeroed in, focused on tomorrow's particular game with Carroll?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of both, a mix of both. I mean, obviously we can't get that one back. We would have loved to have won that championship and credit them for outplaying us. So if there is some sort of added motivation to get them this time, maybe, and maybe also because we know we got to, win at their place in March. But I think this game by itself kind of stands on its own. We have conference championship implications. We want to make every game our championship game. And if that's our approach, when it is a championship game, which is like tomorrow very well could be for a championship, we should be self-motivated. We should be intrinsically motivated. And again, I really believe that we are.
Coach, when you look at down the road in February, you got a lot of big games coming up in February at Blackhawk Christian, at Bishop Luers. You welcome Cathedral and a Saturday afternoon game. You go to Marion, which without Jalen Blackman's a different team, but still playing at Bill Green Athletic Arena is difficult. What do you want to see out of your team before you get to March to really feel in your mind, hey, we can make some noise in 4A?
Just constant improvement. We had a brutal January, with Homestead and coming right off of a Homestead Carroll SAC, Final Four final, and then Zionsville and Lawrence North, and even Cherubusco and even Concordia was good for a half. I mean, it's just been tough, and we set our schedule to be like this. Obviously, you're always going to be in the grind in the SAC because teams are well coached, they're well put together, and then we kind of beef up our schedule both in January and in February to kind of prepare for March. But we want to throw, everything that we can at them, and so that we respond, and so that we maintain that sense of hunger and intensity. So to answer your question, I think that's probably about it. I mean, we just want to have that constant hunger and get better. And obviously, there's some things that are without our control. We want to just make sure that we stay as healthy as possible. And, we're controlling those types of controllables. But from a team and system and personnel standpoint, I think we've got the right guys to just continue to crave improvement.
All right, Coach. Hey, appreciate it. Congratulations. You guys got 4 straight wins, 2 this week. We'll see if you make it 3 tomorrow. Should be a good one out at the Fieldhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. That was Coach Jeremy Rauch, Snider Panthers, joining us for the first time this year, DC. And his team's 13-3, got 4 straight victories over the last couple weeks against the likes of Homestead, Concordia, Cherubusco. Last night it was DeKalb. Tomorrow they'll go to Carroll for a huge SAC showdown. That's going to do it for us. Thank you to Coach Rauch for joining us. Coach John Bodey, Central Noble Cougars, was on. Torrey Curry, athletic director at Southside High School. And we kicked it off with Dan Vance of Outside the Huddle. That'll do it for us this evening. We'll be back next Thursday, 6 o'clock for DC Hendricks. I'm Justin Kenny. This has been the High School Coaches Show, ESPN Radio 1380, 100.9 FM.
Podcasts by Federated Media. Podcasts by Federated Media.